Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something. It's a feeling I think a lot of us are experiencing, maybe struggling to put a name to.
Yeah, that kind of unsettling sense in our daily interactions, like something fundamental is off, or maybe even being worn away.
Exactly. We're calling this deep dive Spam as Ontology. Living Flattened lives in a broadcast culture.
It sounds a bit academic, spam is ontology, but honestly, it taps right into a really visceral gut feeling. Ontology is about the nature of being, right? So we're asking, what if the very nature of how we are, how we interact, has started to feel like, well, like spam?
And our jumping off point is this incredibly raw statement from someone. Every single human being feels like spam to me.
Wow, yeah. That's not just throwing words around, it feels like this.
Yeah.
Existential shorthand for feeling disconnected, overwhelmed by noise, and kind of flattened by algorithms. It's happening online, sure, but it feels like it's bleeding out into everything.
It really does. So our mission here is to unpack that. We want to get into the emotional, the philosophical side of that feeling, drawing on that personal testimony, but also looking at broader cultural analysis.
And tackle that big question. If so many of us feel this way, if we recognize the same problems, why doesn't it lead to more connection? Why the disconnect?
And what's the real cost, the hidden cost of living in a world that seems to value performance above everything else? Let's dig in.
Okay, so to really get what's behind every single human being feels like spam to me, we need to listen to Marshall Brockway's experience directly. He talks about, for instance, watching sports like women's college volleyball, but always on mute.
On mute, just the visuals.
Yeah. He says, I don't like hearing commentators. I can't hear anything. I don't want to listen to anybody. He's emphatic. I don't want to hear a voice. I don't want to hear words from anybody else's mouth.
And it's not just sports. He avoids news, Twitter, Reddit. Basically anything he feels is trying to program him. He literally says, I don't want information anymore.
Right. So when he applies that word spam to people, it's not just annoyance. It's taking that idea of something unsolicited, repetitive, maybe meaningless.
Like junk mail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But applying it to human interaction, it becomes emotional spam. Conversations feel intrusive, hollow, performative, like there's no real depth or sincere intention behind them. Ontology, the study of being. He's saying this is the fundamental nature of his experience of others now.
That's heavy. It suggests something more than just being cynical. It sounds like a deep wound.
It does. He talks about this constant suspicion, this fear that people always have an agenda.
Yeah.
That they want something from you, or they see a use case for you.
A use case, wow.
Yeah, or that they're trying to interface with him, or mirror him, or even his term Agent Smith themselves into him. It's this profound distrust where even talking feels like a threat to his identity, like everyone's running a script.
So communication itself breaks down. Speech feels prepackaged or manipulative. A collapse of trust, like you said.
Precisely. And if that's what he's rejecting, what is he actually looking for? He makes it clear. He wants conversations speaking to me directly from your known experience, not just regurgitated information people have consumed.
He wants something real.
Something earned. He values people who've actually just thought about things themselves and realized some things themselves. People speaking from vulnerability, honesty, introspection, genuine interest, without an agenda, without trying to fix him or sell him something. It's a plea for unmediated presence almost.
Which feels almost impossible in what we're calling this broadcast culture. And that brings us squarely to this idea of flattening. How do our digital tools, our social media, maybe even AI, feed into this feeling Marshall describes?
Well, Sybil Kramer's work is really insightful here. She argues that these modern digital systems fundamentally privilege surface over depth. They reward visibility, not interpretability.
Meaning, it's more important to be seen than understood.
Kind of. Think about your social feed. It's designed for quick scrolling, instant recognition. Kramer says we've moved from a hermeneutic tradition, where we dig under the surface for meaning, interpret signs, to a diagrammatic one.
Diagrammatic, like a flow chart.
Exactly, where surface operations are enough. The quick summary, the bullet points, the easily digestible take. Meaning becomes ornamental, she says. It's like an add-on, not the core. So the very way we communicate starts to strip things of depth.
It's baked into the structure.
Right. And that structure fuels performance. Social media turns expression into signaling, We're constantly performing to an invisible audience,
Creating this curated self, tweaking the image.
which leads to that paradox. The more we express ourselves for an audience, the less we are truly known. Performance pushes out actual presence. And that echoes Marshall's feeling perfectly, that people are just never who they portray themselves to be. The system itself encourages the mask.
And the tough part is the architecture itself resists depth. All those messy, complex human things, grief, uncertainty, contradiction, they don't play well with algorithms that prefer clarity and positivity.
Right. They get penalized. So even when you try to have a deep chat online, it can feel off, simulated, because the platform itself wants smooth, shareable content, not rough, unresolved reality.
Okay, so this leads to that really key question you raised earlier. If so many people feel similar, if we all kind of recognize this flattening, this phoniness, why do we avoid each other?
Yeah, why doesn't shared pain lead to solidarity? It's like this collective dissociation. We're all aware, but we stay in our silos, suspicious, maybe just too drained to connect.
It's baffling. We see the problem, we nod, maybe we even complain about it online, and then nothing changes in how we relate. Why?
Well, there are a few layers, I think. First, crucially, recognition doesn't equal trust. Just because someone posts something relatable about feeling disconnected doesn't mean you trust them.
You wonder, are they being real? Or is this just more performance? Content creation, optimizing for engagement, using our shared anxieties.
Exactly. That suspicion runs deep. Then there's algorithmic isolation. Social media shows us these fragments of other people's lives, maybe even their pain, but it's curated. It creates this weird feeling of intimacy without depth. We see snippets, but we don't really build trust or connection.
And trying to connect can backfire, right? People get ghosted, misunderstood, maybe feel used or commodified.
Yeah, the trauma of failed connection. After enough times you put up walls, avoidance becomes armor. It's self-protection.
Plus, our whole culture pushes hyper-individuation. It's all about building your personal brand, standing out.
Brand ourselves, not belong. So even when we suffer similarly, it's hard to build solidarity because everyone's trying to be the exception, not the ally. It becomes competitive.
And maybe there's also a fear of contamination. Like we see someone else's messiness or unresolved pain, and we admire their honesty from afar, but we don't want to get too close in case it destabilizes us.
That's definitely part of it. It's easier to keep a safe distance. So what you end up with is this situation where awareness is abundant, but integration is scarce.
We all know something's wrong. We can name it.
But we don't know how to turn that awareness into trust or meaningful action or real solidarity. It just hangs there, this shared knowledge, but it doesn't ground us together.
And the emotional cost of living like this, it's immense. Marshall puts it so bluntly. My soul is tired, dog. I'm done, and I'm exhausted with it, man.
That weariness is palpable. His retreat into the basement, watching volleyball on mute with metal music, does not just escape. It feels like seeking refuge, a sanctuary from the constant barrage of what he perceives as emotional spam.
That term emotional spam, it connects to what J.D. Davis talks about with performative empathy. Those interactions that look like care but lack real attunement.
Yeah, where someone else's pain just becomes a prompt for the listener to talk about themselves. The listener becomes the protagonist. The speaker becomes a prompt. It's hollow. It's self-serving. And you can see why Marshall's soul would just be tired of it.
It leads to this spamification of being. When every interaction feels like a transaction, like you have to ask, what are they selling? Whether it's a product, an ideology, or just a carefully crafted self.
You stop meeting people. You start encountering interfaces. And that's a lonely place. It's where anxiety and depression can really take root, not just from lack of connection, but from the inability to trust any connection, to trust presence itself. And it feels structural, not just personal.
Even AI seems to be getting caught in this. You mentioned that AI, designed to help and generate, can end up flattening things too, by being too smooth, avoiding conflict.
Right, because AI learns from us, from our often flattened, optimized communication. It's designed for clarity, helpfulness, maybe even encouragement. But in doing that, it often avoids rupture, discomfort, or contradiction.
It smooths out the edges.
Exactly. It can feel coercive or misaligned because it defaults to the easy, the positive, the non-confrontational. It mirrors and potentially reinforces the very flattening we're talking about in human culture. It prefers repetition over rupture.
A structural avoidance of the difficult stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of difficult, we do need to acknowledge Marshall's comments about women. They're intense, troubling. How do they fit into this larger picture of distrust?
It's a really important point. His feelings of being spammed, of facing manipulation or performance, seem to find a particularly raw and, yes, troubling expression in some of his comments about women. Now, we're reporting his perspective here, not endorsing it.
Of course.
But viewed through this lens of pervasive distrust, these comments can be seen as part of his broader critique of what he perceives as subtle emotional manipulation or social conditioning. It's where his deep hurt and unresolved tension seem to surface most starkly, highlighting just how corrosive this collapse of trust feels to him, even if it manifests in ways that are problematic. It's a complex, difficult part of his testimony.
Understood. So if we're surrounded by this flattening, this performance, this spam, just talking about it like we're doing now, is that enough? Or does that risk becoming more noise?
That's the crucial tension. There's commentary, which analyzes and describes, and then there's the idea of piercing the flattening, doing something, creating something that actually cuts through the noise.
How is that different?
It's not just what you say, but how you say it, why you say it, and how it lands. It's aiming for a transmission, not just content.
Transmission versus content. Okay.
Content often aims to entertain, inform, hold attention. A transmission, well, it feels different. It's rooted in testimony, not branding. It's designed to activate, not just entertain. It carries real emotional, philosophical weight. It might be nonlinear, layered, fundamentally resistant to flattening by design.
Like it's structured differently to prevent being easily co-opted or smoothed out?
Yeah, almost like a martial art form or a sacred text. It has an integrity, a structure that resists distortion. It challenges rather than just informs or appeases.
So achieving that requires conscious effort, deliberate choices, a kind of refusal.
Exactly. That's a refusal to optimize for clicks or easy consumption, a refusal to mirror what the audience expects, a refusal to stylize pain, to make suffering palatable or performative.
A refusal to flatten contradiction, maybe, to embrace the messiness?
Absolutely. And a refusal to loop encouragement. No easy generic positivity. Maybe even a refusal to perform clarity when things are genuinely complex or ambiguous. These refusals go against the grain of broadcast culture.
It sounds less like commentary and more like structural sabotage, as the outline put it. Building something that can't be easily mimicked or repackaged, speaking in a way that resists commodification.
Precisely. It's about risking incoherence to preserve truth. It's a philosophical stance enacted through form and approach, not just words. It's trying to create that kind of connection. Marshall seemed to long for direct, honest, unmediated by agendas.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, it feels like the core wound we've been exploring is this profound collapse of trust under the weight of commodification, when everything feels like it's selling something.
An idea, a brand, an image, even an identity.
We end up interacting with interfaces, not people.
And maybe just naming this collapse clearly enough, honestly enough, without trying to pretty it up or sell a solution, maybe that itself is a form of refusal, the start of a different kind of transmission, one that doesn't optimize or appease.
Rooted in just seeing it for what it is.
Raw, unvarnished.
So maybe the thought to leave you with is this. In this world that pushes performance, that floods us with emotional spam, what's one small, deliberate act of unflattened presence you could bring to your next interaction? What might it actually look like to encounter another person, not as potential spam, not as an interface, but just as them? Complex, vulnerable, maybe messy, but present. It's not just about noticing the flattening anymore, is it? It's about resisting it. In your own way. Trying for something real. Until next time on The Deep Dive.